Here in northeast England, the fishing industry overwhelmingly supported Brexit. Fishermen were keen to take back control of UK waters and become independent of Brussels. Almost 70% of voters in the region wanted Britain to leave the EU. But now that's happened, they feel let down.
I almost feel embarrassed that I voted out. I wish I could just turn back the clock.
They've promised us this, that and the other, and it hasn't. We're worse off now. We are. We're worse off than before Brexit.
Grimsby, a port town by the North Sea.
Yep, all right then, son. 10 minutes, you'll be here then. Aye, to us.
Darren Kenyon is one of Grimsby's last working fishermen. While he waits for one of his fishing boats to return to shore, he's repairing his lobster pots. He's been working since the age of 13. These days, it's mainly the younger fishermen working for his company who head out to sea. His lads, as he calls them. Darren takes care of everything on dry land. He learned his trade from his father. They used to spend weeks at sea. But in the 1990s, the EU's common fisheries policy took its toll on the family business. The company switched its focus to shellfish.
We've all had nails in the coffin as we've gone along, but I think we're getting to the end of it now, where we're getting down to the last few nails, and that's it, you know. And it's too hard. It's really hard with the rules and regulations to keep going, and they just keep putting more and more rules on you.
Many local fishermen have long since given up. Darren still has 3 vessels manned by 3 crews. He's managed to keep his business afloat. But like many here, he'd pinned his hopes on Brexit. He thought he'd be free from Brussels bureaucracy and EU fishing quotas. One politician in particular had promised fishermen that Brexit would revive their fortunes. Boris Johnson visited Grimsby on the campaign trail. Martin Boyers is chief executive of Grimsby Fish Market, a British institution for the last 80 years. Seafood destined for restaurants and fish and chip shops across the country is sold here at daily auctions, overseen by the boss himself.
One of the features of the fishing industry, which we find here in Grimsby, is that as far as emotionally to the voters, it's a very high profile subject, so it carries a huge weight emotionally.
That's exactly what Boris Johnson took advantage of. The region is part of what's known as the Red Wall, the British constituencies that have traditionally voted Labour. He visited in late December 2019, just a few days before Britain went to the polls in a general election. Incumbent Prime Minister Theresa May was bogged down in exit negotiations with the EU, and Brexit hardliner Boris Johnson was determined to unseat her. Here in Grimsby, he pulled out all the stops.
And what Boris Johnson was trying to do was to break that mold. So he came here, and visually it made a great story because he came to the fish market, and of course he came out with rhetoric about the future of fisheries. So anytime any of the politicians want to protect the fishermen, want to support the fishermen, is always seen as being a good thing.
Darren is getting a boat ready to go out. He uses crab scraps as bait for whelks. Looking back, he realizes that Brexit was used as bait in the last election, too.
In this town here, we've always voted Labour. When Boris came down to Grimsby, and then everybody changed the opinion, he's going to help us and this, that and the other. So and everybody voted Conservatives, especially in Grimsby.
Boris Johnson's pledge to help the fishing industry take back control of UK waters and increase catches helped him win votes, including Darren's. Believing that better times lay ahead, he bought an old trawler.
So we've done a boat up. The officials have been here and they've ticked it along as we go. We go in 3 stages. So they've done all that and not one of them have said anything.
He spent a year renovating it, using up all his savings. He's invested £500,000, over €500,000 in the new vessel.
We've done all the hydraulics, all new pipes, everything's all brand new. It's only the engine, obviously it's not new.
Darren bought the 30-year-old trawler from the family of a fisherman who died. But after doing it up, he was in for a rude awakening. Because the trawler hadn't been used for 2 years, it was classified as new by the Fisheries Authority and lost its fishing quota.
My argument is it's been fishing for 30 years and then suddenly it can't go fishing. I could probably go back fishing, but they've told me that I'd have to pay about £500,000 for the quota. So we're just dead in the water. We've got to get rid of it somehow now. We've got to sell it.
The government had promised to cut EU red tape, but Darren says it's worse than ever. The company's cold storage, lobster pots, and shop are just across the road. Darren's wife, Jenny, takes care of orders and deliveries. She likes working in a family business. Her son-in-law, Dean, is in charge of packaging. Her daughter, Laura, processes the shellfish. But when the business is struggling, there's less family time. They all thought that Brexit would take the pressure off. That's not how it's turned out.
Hard, because we don't have a life. I'd love to do something different and not think about coming down here.
The money wasted on restoring the old fishing boat left them financially worse off. It weighs on all their minds.
Oh, it does, yeah. You don't sleep at night worrying about it. Hopefully it'll sell. Hopefully.
Darren's put the trawler up for sale for £400,000, a lot less than what he paid for it. Every day they check to see if anyone's interested. The trouble is, everyone here knows that Brexit has left the fishing industry reeling.
Well, we feel really let down, we are. We're worse off than before Brexit. So it's been a total waste of time for the English fishermen.
Darren tidies up the dock while one of his boats heads out. John Steele and a young apprentice are off to catch whelks in the Humber estuary. He's also angry about broken Brexit promises and thinks Boris Johnson sold the fishing industry down the river. Spanish and French boats are still allowed to fish in the UK exclusive economic zone, 12 miles from the coast. The government failed to change this in its negotiations with the EU. The fishermen haul in dozens of these white plastic traps. Whelks are a delicacy in France, South Korea, and China.
We tried to make £20,000–30,000 a year. On a good year, you can make £50,000. On a bad year, I can make £10,000. We're not in control of it. It's what's underneath what's in control of it. We don't have a guarantee on our money.
John Steele isn't employed by Darren. Like all the local fishermen, he's self-employed. They're paid according to what they catch. That means that if things go badly, they can be out on the boats for 3 days, but only earn a few pounds. But they love the freedom of working on the water. Apprentice Scott Bly has been working with John for 2 months now and hopes he'll be able to earn a living as a fisherman despite the challenges.
Nothing's changed right now. In England, I feel nothing's changed from Brexit. I expect the government to actually start funding people and training courses, fishing schools, you know, something what, you know, the big reason of the Brexit was to do with the fishing industry. So they can't make it blind, even though it's not a great amount of money incoming, it's a lot what we, us common people, think about a lot.
A few days later, Grimsby fishermen used to bring their catch directly to the dock at the fish market. These days, the biggest sellers are cod and haddock, used in fish and chips, explains Martin Boyers. The bidding process is almost imperceptible. The blink of an eye, a slight nod of a head.
90, 95, 95, 95.
None of this fish that's on the fish market has been landed by vessel. It's all come overland, and all of this fish that you see on the market today, all of this here is Icelandic. So this is an auction house mainly for Icelandic fish.
5, 10, 15.
Martin Boyers blames ocean warming.
30, 5.
Cod and haddock migrated to colder waters off Iceland, Greenland, and Norway. That's where British trawlers fished when Britain was part of the EU Common Fisheries Policy. Boris Johnson promised to negotiate better terms, but the UK government failed to strike deals with these countries, and fishermen are now facing financial ruin.
If the fishermen, if they'd have thought about the Brexit arrangements in the first place, they would have voted to stay in. The EU, for all its faults, and the common fishing policy was a system in place. So now what the UK government and the fisheries are doing is replicating what was there in the first place. They're negotiating with Norway about reciprocal arrangements, and they're not getting them. They're negotiating with Iceland about access to waters, and they can't go in it. And the whole thing has become a complete mess. So all of the people that thought about leaving and it would all be rosy, it hasn't happened.
Growing unemployment in the Humberside area is one result. The city of Hull is north of the Humber Bridge. Carl McGlone works at Cave Street Fisheries, a traditional fish and chip shop. He's also feeling the cold winds of Brexit. It's early in the morning, and he's taking delivery of today's fresh fish. Now that Britain doesn't have any of its own fleets in subarctic waters, it has to buy fish from Norway and Iceland.
Take, for example, this box of fish here would be £140 prior to Brexit. That fish now, today, is £220. So, obviously, that absorbs our profit. We cannot pass that to the customer as their wages are not increasing. So, we subsidise the price to the customer, making it non-profitable.
2,182.
There's 480 there. I overpaid last week.
Right, so 2,480.
Yep.
Carl McGlone has had his shop for 38 years, but he's struggling in the wake of Brexit. Hull is one of the poorest places in Britain. Fish and chips is the national dish, classic working-class fare. But these days, it's too expensive for many.
Again, in the past, I would have sold. People would buy that size fish. Now, they don't have the money to pay for this fish. So now that has to go to smaller fish, because then they'll pay the price for the smaller fish. It's becoming a luxury for the working man.
He prepares his ingredients every morning, before the first customers start arriving around 11:30.
They're mushy peas. They're just generally what local people like. Example.
But even the prices for peas have risen since Britain left the EU.
Peas here, £20 per bag. This time last year, there was £10 per bag. So, massive impact, double in price. Because there is no Eastern European workers coming over to pick the peas in the field, so obviously they're not harvested, and the market is obviously reduced, which increases price. So again, major problem.
When Carl opened his shop in the 1980s, Beverly Road was a part of a vibrant neighborhood with shops and pubs lining the street. 68% of people in Hull voted for Brexit. They thought it would help turn the economy around. Sasha works at the shop. Carl tries to take things in stride.
These today are for a promotion for chip butties, which is chips inside the bun. Normally would be £2.85. Today's special offer, £1. My theory is a pound is better than nothing. So let's take a pound off someone.
About an hour until opening. Back in Grimsby, some 50 kilometers away, Darren Kenyon needs some new equipment for his boats. He still hasn't found a buyer for his trawler.
I'm off some sleeves.
These days, this fishing supply store relies on online business. There aren't many customers left here in Grimsby. Shop owner Simon Munday helps Darren.
It's in the bigger coil.
Yeah.
Right. Have a look at that one, Daz.
Yeah.
And that's leaded.
Yeah.
No lead in them now, Si, is there? Hey. That might be a bit thick, that Si, actually. But it's good stuff.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment from you, Darren.
Yeah, I like that.
What are you going to do and stick on that 14?
Yeah, I'll have to go back. I'll take that 14, but this is good enough for tow, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good tow.
Darren has been coming here for years. He's told Simon all about the trouble with his boat and how no one wants to buy it. He's just had an idea, though. He's going to write to his local MP.
With the trawl, Simon, at the moment, we're a bit stuck, so I'm going to write to the MP and maybe the fishery minister, just to send them a letter to explain why I've bought a fishing licence. We've done the boat up to top spec, and they've turned around and said we can't even go fishing with it.
And how much money have you spent?
We've spent
a lot of money.
A lot of money. A lot of money
to get to the end.
So it's absolutely diabolical.
Oh. Right.
2 sets of 14-gauge ropes and new gloves for one of Grimsby's last fishermen. It's 11:30 and the first customers are here.
Morning. Got your chip butties on offer today?
Yeah, 2, please. 2?
Macy also works for Carl. Lunchtimes can get busy. £3 and 15 pence for a lunch of 2 chip buddies and mushy peas. The specialty is fish in batter. But times are tough, and most customers order chip buddies. These days, Carl McGlone sells shellfish in extra large, regular, and small portions.
Me personally, I voted out and regretted it within 24 hours.
Put it down.
I have children, I have 2 boys, and the way things was going, the things we was getting told, you know, through the politicians on the news, I just thought for the children's future and my grandchildren's future, maybe it would be better for them.
We was only told the information we paid in. We wasn't told that we received anything back. We assumed we was the highest paying country in Europe and received nothing.
Obviously, they told us the funding would go to the NHS. It hasn't been. I rang the dentist to get my 2 sons a checkup because they've not been checked since before COVID because they're closed everywhere. And they said a 3-year waiting list for the dentist. So, yeah, a 3-year wait to be seen. Yeah.
Now, what do you all want?
I want chip butty gravy, please. Chip butty gravy, yeah.
What would you like?
Are you having it open? Yes, please.
Brexit is hitting families hard here. Among them, Sarah and Keith Harrison. They have 3 children, Harvey, Tia, and Sky.
Chips and curry twice. Yeah, both of them, yeah. Give them a smell. Thumbs up. You ready? There you go. Stand over there, another lunch.
The kids get chip buddies for lunch once a month. A special treat.
Hey, you want that?
No,
Sure.
yeah, thanks.
There you go.
They can't afford a large portion of fish and chips.
We'd rather just eat it at home, basically. It's just a bit cheaper. But yeah, it's hard to get to the chippy now. Yeah. You enjoy it though, yeah?
Yeah.
I enjoy the chippy when we do. It's lovely.
Right.
The Harrisons are struggling to make ends meet. After Keith was made redundant, they had to move into social housing. He used to work for a frozen fruits company, but his employer was another casualty of Brexit. There were difficulties and delays with imports.
We
Well,
wanted to stay. Yeah, definitely wanted to stay, all of us. All the family did. But yeah, madness. But yeah, nothing's
So
changed.
our votes didn't count, obviously.
That's it,
We
yeah.
left.
Yeah.
They can't afford to let Harvey and his little sisters join sports clubs. And a lot of youth clubs that used to get EU funding have had to shut. Kids are left glued to their screens at home or getting up to no good on the streets.
Boredom.
Yeah, very boredom,
Just getting
that's-
into trouble.
yeah.
That's what they'll be doing. There's nothing for them to do. Nothing at all, really. There's
No,
no
not
parks,
even a-
no more, no
not-
youth centres, no
No.
more for them after school clubs. Just, yeah, bad.
Nothing.
Bad.
And all the kids do nowadays, the odd ones just sit in parks with like
yeah,
bottles of
graffiti and
cider or
bottles of
something.
cider in the parks and that.
Yeah.
That's what they do now. So
Get
we don't
into-
like him going
get
out there
into
that
trouble,
much.
Yeah.
Juvenile crime is a problem in Hull. Young people have few prospects and nothing to keep them busy. Many turn to drug dealing and work as couriers to earn a bit of cash.
I've like seen these kids and I'm saying if they want someone to join, they have to like do some stuff. Yeah, you know, like I did used to hang about with some kids who was like that, but yeah, I stopped hanging about with them because I made some actual good friends.
Harvey's meeting up with one of those friends later. It's been a month since Darren sent his letter. Neither his local MP nor the Fisheries Ministry has been in touch. And he's still waiting for someone to make him an offer on his trawler.
We're in a bad situation, aren't we? People don't want to invest, really, I suppose, the way the climate, you know, the way the fishing is, obviously.
The family depends on the shellfish business remaining steady.
Well, my wife, she's always moaning about the boats. That'll never change. I just try to keep a bit of fishing into Grimsby and to keep a few of the lads keep doing it. So they can't really work for bigger companies where they need laptops and the, you know, I can't really explain it. We're not very educational, and there is gaps for them, you know, for young lads like myself years ago, when we're not the brightest, but we can work with our hands.
These whelks are destined for cool storage.
So you're looking forward to the studio, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. I've hooked the machine up so I can make some beats.
Yeah.
Then you can do a bit of beatbox for the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
His parents can't afford the bus ticket into town, so once a week, Harvey gets picked up by Steve Arnott, who runs the Beat Bus project. He had a tough childhood here in Hull and now works with disadvantaged kids. The project helps youngsters gain confidence and broaden their horizons through writing and performing rap music.
If young people can't earn money normally and they need to earn money, then they're going to earn money in some other way. Our project is about giving these young people aspirations and belief in themselves, and to look at music and the arts as a serious career and something they could do with their life, rather than making the wrong choices and going down the selling drugs, getting involved in a gang culture life.
Harvey's been a part of the Beat Bus project for 4 years. The kids don't have to pay anything to join. But the free project is now at risk.
So just have a look now. When we first started out, we got business support that was funded by the European Union, and now that's non-existent as well. That's totally finished.
Steve Arnott has spent a lot of time looking for sponsors to keep the project going. He's given up expecting any kind of support from the government in London.
3, 4. Guy, when we first met him, like, wouldn't speak, and when he did speak, he was like, all the time, wouldn't you? And now he's, yeah, he stands on stages and beatboxes in front of hundreds of people, and yeah, makes us proud, man. Makes us very proud.
Some kids like think that I can do good and like get some places in life, and it's since they always said that I've been keep going and going, and I've believed it.
Darren's lads are on a break. The next boat will be setting off tonight.
I'm fighting a hard battle. We'll keep trying, but, you know, it'll be a sad day if I had to pack up. But, you know, it'd take a long time for me to do that. But there is a lot against us.